So today's video, I wanted to spend a few minutes clarifying something for the vast majority of you. I've gotten this question so many times that I just stopped answering it. And now I'm telling you guys, watch the video, because I did explain in two different videos. One is the end of days timeline, and one is the tribulation timeline. I actually recapped it. How we know where we are in time now, and how we know that the end is the year 2024. We're at the point where we're going to start the last portion of the tribulation timeline. We're in the bowls now. We're in the last 3.5 years of the timeline now. This video will consolidate that in your mind for you and get you to accept it. Alright, so without further ado, I'll see you on the other side. Alright, welcome to the other side. So, in the end of days timeline that I posted a few weeks back, I began that timeline a certain way for a reason. A lot of folks out there dismiss the first 5 books of the Torah as being significant in our time, in the calculation of anything dealing with the end. And actually, it's quite significant. You're going to find that if you utilize those books, they tell you how long things will be in totality, in total. Such as I posted a short video about Leviticus, and how Leviticus 12 and Leviticus 15 show us and tell us how long it is from the sign of the woman clothed with the sun, 9/22/2017, until Esther goes before the king in the 10th month. And it tells you exactly how long that is. It's 74 days. This video is going to explain to you how we know that 2024 is the end of time, according to biblical prophecy. The prophecy, as I said, in the end of days timeline, begins in Genesis chapter 6, verse 3. And it says that his spirit will not always reside with man, but it will for 120 years. We found out that those 120 years, through multiple scriptures, all over the place, it talks about the Spirit. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty is talking about Jubilee. You can go to the book of Leviticus once again and learn all about Jubilees. You can go to the book of Jubilees as well. So Genesis 6 verse 3, we find out there's 120 years. Those years are Jubilees. Jubilees are 50 years apart. So every 50 years is a year of Jubilee, okay? And you count 120 of them, 120 multiplied by 50 years each gives you a total of 6,000 years. 6,000 years, that 6,000 year time span is done using the Enoch calendar. The Enoch calendar has a different number of days than the Gregorian calendar that everybody you know, including you, myself, we go based on it because of the world that we live in. And that's the world that we live in uses the Gregorian calendar. That's why. So over thousands of years, you're looking at a difference in time. I think that makes plenty of sense. So Genesis 6:3 tells us there's 6,000 years worth of time, Enoch calendar time. So to get to the year 2024, you kind of can't unless you learn how to convert the years. Right now there's a picture in front of you, and it's telling you how to convert the years. To convert the years from biblical to Gregorian time, you would take X, the number of years, multiply that by 360 days per year, then divide by 365.242199 to get Gregorian calendar years, the number of them. Then To do it in reverse, you would convert from Gregorian to biblical by taking X, the number of years, multiplied by 364.242199, divided by 360, and you would get the number of Enoch calendar years that are then in question. So if you look at the current picture that you have in front of you, the top of it says time calculation. And then below that, you're going to have a box that says Enoch calendar time. Then you're going to have Gregorian years. Gregorian years is just Gregorian time. So Enoch calendar time is going to use 360-day years. Gregorian years, that column is going to use 365.242199 day years. And then next to that, years. So in the column that says Enoch calendar time, it starts at 0. Next to that, you'll see that Adam was created. Okay? From there, you can add up all the generations of Adam, starting in Genesis 5, verse 3. And you go forward, it goes forward, multiple chapters there. But it tells you, if you add up all the years of the people, the genealogy of those people, it comes to 1,948 years when you come to Abraham. All right, so going forward from there, if you look next to that 1,948 Enoch calendar years, you would convert that over to Gregorian years, okay? And in Gregorian years, that's 1,920 Gregorian years. So there's a difference in time. You can clearly see that. All right? And, okay, so going forward from there, you'll see below 1,948, it says 1,999. 1,999 Enoch calendar years. This is not telling you BC or AD. This is just telling you the number of years for each period of time. So the generations of Adam spanned 1,948 years. We'll get into BC AD here in just a few minutes. That way you can find out what year the timeline ends. So 1,999 years, that's Enoch calendar years. That period of time spans from Abraham to Anno Domini. Anno Domini is not year 0. It is a blink of an eye. It is the transition between 1 BC and 1 AD. It is the conjuncture of them where they meet and transition. That is important to understand because there is no year 0. You're either in 1 BC or 1 AD. Just like between 2017 and 2018, there was no year 0. Right? It just went from 2017 to 2018. So, I know you get that concept. That period of time between Abraham and Anno Domini lasts 1,999 years. That extra year's worth of time, because I know your mind's thinking that it should be 2,000, just round it to 2,000, Jay. No, that extra year's worth of time is important because it's important, and you'll see why here in a few minutes. It's actually a period of time that is accounted for using the book of Matthew and the book of Revelation. Okay? So, moving on. From Anno Domini, going forward in time, Anno Domini would be the blink of an eye between 1 BC and 1 AD. All right? That's the conjuncture of those 2 years. From there, you would have to go forward 2,053 years to get to the end of the 6,000 years that we calculated using Genesis 6 verse 3. Now this is going to become amazing here. Listen. That 1999 years is equal to 1970 Gregorian years, which you'll see right next to 1999 on your screen. 2053 years is equal to 2023.533978 Gregorian years. Yeah, I guess you could round that to, if you look right next to it, you'll see 2024. However, that can be a little bit misleading because there is 6 months worth of time there that is missing if you round the time up, which is actually important. You can't just round time up and think that it's going to equal something significant. You have to account for it. All right, if you look below that, you'll see the year 6000 in the column under Enoch calendar time. Year 6000, if you convert that time over to Gregorian calendar years, all right, using a Gregorian calendar with 365.242199 days in it, you will get 5,913.884009 years. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, yes, Genesis 6:3 says that there'll be 120 years or jubilees with man having his spirit. That's equal to 6,000 Enoch calendar years. Because there's a difference in time, you can take that 6,000 years and convert that over to Gregorian time. When you convert that over to Gregorian time, it now is no longer 6,000 Enoch years, it's now 5,913.884009 Gregorian years. From there, you can convert everything into a BC or AD timeline, which is what we did. All right, so from there, you can go back up to where it says Adam created, and it will say next to it, Gregorian, BC, or AD. That's telling you time. And everybody has learned about time through studying history. Everybody went to school and learned about, oh, in this year BC, in that year BC, or in this year AD. So you know what they're referring to if they say BC or AD. Scientists will use the term CE, or current era, because most of them refuse to acknowledge that there was a year of the Lord. Moving on, it says Adam created 3,890 BC would be when he was created. Below that, you'll see that we need to go forward in time 1,920 Gregorian years from 3,890 BC, which will take you to 1970 BC. That would be when Abraham was on the scene. You're going to go forward in time another 1970.309022 Gregorian years, and you'll come to Anno Domini, or unto Christ. And that I have represented by 0. I mean, there is no time. There is no year 0. So what I did is I just put a 0 in there so it's represented by something. Like in your mind, most people's minds, 0 can represent nothing, nada, nothing there. So going forward from there, you're going to take Anno Domini, and now we know, since we converted 2053 Enoch calendar years over to 2023.533978 Gregorian years, you take Anno Domini and you add 2023.533978 to it, you're going to come to roughly the year 2024. Why is there a gap in time, and why do we say that the timeline ends in 2024? Well, there's your answer. Alright, so there is another picture up in front of you now that is going to explain the following. It will say Gregorian BC or AD. Next to 1970 BC, you'll see it says Genesis 5 verse 3. Start there in order to get the generations of Adam, which equal 1948 Enoch calendar years, or biblical years. You can call them biblical years because that's what it is. And then below that, you'll see Anno Domini, represented by the number 0. There is no year 0. You don't count it. It has no value. Next to that, it'll say Matthew 1 verse 17, which breaks down for us 3 periods of time in that 1970.309022 year period between Abraham and Anno Domini. That broken into 3 parts tells you exactly how far apart those events in Matthew 1 verse 17 are. Why are we breaking it into 3? Well, because it tells you that there was 14 generations between certain events. That's high. All right, so Matthew chapter 1 verse 17, it says, so all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. All right. And from David until the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations. And from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations. We already know that the year of the Lord is Anno Domini. And we already know that Abraham is 1970 BC. Okay? Gregorian time, BC. So between then and Anno Domini is going to be 1970 years, 70.309022 years. You take that number, you divide it by 3. You now know that from Abraham to David is 656.77 years, Gregorian years. And from David unto the carrying away into Babylon is 656.77 years. And from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ is then 656.77 years. All right, so this is very interesting here, okay, that I'm about to tell you. If you take 656.770 years that represents those 14 generations, that's Gregorian calendar years, and you convert those years over to Enoch calendar years, you're going to get 666 years for 14 generations. 656.77 years for 14 generations, you divide that by 14, that gives you 47 years per generation. Right. Praise God. So we now know how long a generation is in Gregorian calendar time. All right, moving forward. So now you know how long each one of those 14 generation periods are. They're 656.77 Gregorian years apart, which brings us to Anno Domini. From there, we still have, 2,053 Enoch calendar years remaining to account for, and so we can come to the end of the 6,000 years of man. We converted 6,000 over to 5913.884009. Okay? Gregorian years. What you do is you take 2,053 years, you convert that over to Gregorian years, and you get 2,023.533978. Interesting, right? Which is essentially the year 2024. Okay. I know that a lot of people, so many people, have been asking, what's up with the year 2052? Can somebody explain to me this calculation? Well, here's your explanation. The year 2052 into 2053, all right, like I explained at the beginning of this video, the Enoch calendar runs into those two Gregorian years. So the year 2053 needs to be converted over to Gregorian calendar time. That yes, the last year of time is 2024. All right. So there's another thing here that also tells us exactly where we're at in time. If you look at your screen right now, you'll see where it says 2023.533978 is essentially equal to 2024. Next to that, you'll see Hosea 6, 1 through 3, and 2 Peter 3 and 8. 2 Peter 3 and 8 says that a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. That is very important information in order to be able to interpret Hosea 6, 1 through 3 correctly. Hosea 6, 1 through 3 says, "Come, and let us return unto the Lord, for he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and will bind us up. After 2 days he will revive us, and in the third day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight." All right? So after 2 days, it says he will revive us. In the third day, he will raise us up. Why is this important when we combine that scripture with 2 Peter 3 verse 8? Well, Peter 3 verse 8 told us that a day with the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day. Hosea just said in verse 2, it says, after 2 days, after 2 days, he will revive us. In the third day, he will raise us up. So, in my notes here, it says that the first day begins at Anno Domini and ends in 1000 AD. That's Enoch time. The second day begins at 1001 AD and ends at 2000 AD. That's Enoch time. Why did I say Enoch time? I know you're probably getting confused here. You have to look at this as a timeline that has not been converted yet. First day, we know runs from Anno Domini to the year 1000 AD. That's not time converted. That is just time. We're just using Enoch time there because this is biblical time being talked about, and it says that a year is a day with the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. That says that after 2 days he will revive us. All right. That time has not been converted. When you convert that year, it's really saying from Anno Domini to the year 985.64733 AD Gregorian time. It's first day. All right. Then from there, it says the second day runs from the year 1001 AD Enoch time and ends in the year 2000 AD Enoch time. When you convert those times over to Gregorian time so we can understand this, it says that the second day runs from 985.64733 AD Gregorian time to 1971.294669 AD Gregorian time. Yes, that's 1971, just a few decades ago. What happened that was important in 1971? Well, I'm going to throw something out there that I believe is important to all of us, because we're actually living through it right now. It is NSSM 200, written by Henry Kissinger himself, where he talked about doing exactly what we're living through now to the entire world. Yes, this is when Richard Nixon was in office. NSSM 200 was a document that he produced for the government to follow in the future to control world populations. So, what's important about this? Well, in 1971, that was a Jubilee year. It was. That was a Jubilee year. How do we know that? Well, because we know that there was 1970.309022 years from Abraham to Anno Domini. And if we add 1970.309022 to Anno Domini, we would come to 1970.309022 AD Gregorian time, which would take us into the year 1971.294669 AD Gregorian time. If you go to Matthew chapter 24, verse 34, it says, "This generation shall not pass." This generation is 50 Enoch years, or converted, it equals 49.282366 Gregorian years. Make sense? 49 years after 1971. So miraculously, this is going to blow your mind. Absolutely blow it. Listen. From 1971 and the release of the NSSM number 200 by Henry Kissinger, if you add one Gregorian year calculated Jubilee of 49.2823667 years to 1971.294669 AD Gregorian, you come to the year 2020.577036 as the year that they would begin all the steps that Henry Kissinger wrote out in NSSM number 200. So from 2020, we then find out that that is the year that everything starts. That's the fifth trumpet. That's the year that we would see the first woe. And it also says that this generation shall not pass in Matthew 24, verse 34, until all these things have come to pass. Jesus said that himself. What things was he saying would come to pass before 2020? Matthew chapter 24, he tells us all the things that would come to pass. And they are the beginning of sorrows as well. That's what it's also said. So Jesus is speaking with these guys, and he says, "See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another." Well, that has happened. That shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, "Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So, before that question that he was asked, what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world, he answered the question to them. That debunks people saying that, in verse 34, he said that these things, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled, has nothing to do with him saying that there should not be one stone left upon another that won't be thrown down. So it has nothing to do with it, because now there's a different question. In verse 3, what shall be the sign of thy coming in the end of the world? So now Jesus is going to answer that question. Listen. And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. That indicates that people will try to deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. That's happened. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See ye that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Well, that's obviously happened. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All that's happened. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Well, now we know that since all those things confirmed have happened, we've been living through the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. But I'm going to submit to you that they shall deliver you up to be afflicted. Affliction, what does that mean? You're going to be opposed. Okay? Somebody is going to oppose you. Groups of people are going to oppose you. The world will oppose you. And they shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. With that said, you look around, if you listen to the news for even 5 seconds, they're saying that it's the pandemic of the undabbed. So that is opposing you. They're now calling us anti-jabbers. And they're doing everything they can to make it impossible for these people, us, to operate in the world that we currently live in. They oppose you. Eventually, Jesus says, and shall kill you. Well, we've talked about death in a few of my videos, and if you've wrapped your mind around it, which I hope you have, because you, me, and everybody you know will die. We will die. I'm not saying to not be healthy, but I'm saying to stop worrying about it. You're going to die. I'm going to die. Me, I would rather die than do certain ththings, which I'm not going to say or talk about on this channel because I don't want my channel to get taken down right now. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Well, we all are right now. The ones that are opposing their agenda are the ones that are hated for his name's sake. His name's sake. We don't want to do a certain something because it goes against our religious beliefs. Right? And they hate us because of that. They do. They hate us because of that. And what is that? Well, his name's sake. We don't want to do it because we do not want to trespass against the Lord. His name's sake. Many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquities shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Okay. Endure until the end is coming. We're coming up on it pretty quick. And it says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. This gospel has been preached throughout the entire world. There are people that make it their career, their purpose in life, just to go to these countries and places, in remote places of the world, to preach the gospel. They're learning languages that just a few people in the world speak, just so they can translate the Bible for them. That's what people are doing now. When ye shall therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, this is calculated to happen here 7 days from now, 1 week. That is when it's calculated to happen. It goes on and it says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world, this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened." And God bless you, and I hope this video helped you.
And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. Revelation 20 verse 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. And the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. Revelation 20 verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged, every man according to their works. Revelation 20 verse 14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Revelation 20 verse 15. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Revelation 21:8. But the fearful, and the unbelieving, and the abominable and murderers, and whoremongers and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars, will have their part in the lake burning with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.